Welcome to video 3 in our series. We will review the ICF requirements for your first 100 hours. Take a look at this. This is what the ICF says. They require a minimum of 100 hours, 70 paid of coaching experience with at least 8 clients following the start of your coach-specific training. This is why we were looking at your timeline in that last video. We want to know, when was the start of your coach-specific training? Because that is when you can begin to accrue your coaching hours. Now, what this also means is that you can't just coach one person for free for 100 hours. That doesn't count. You need 70 of those hours to be paid. We'll explore precisely what that means. That means 30 of your hours can be pro bono or free. 8 clients or more, and at least 25 of these hours must occur within 24 months prior to submitting your application. Now, this last part is also referred to as the recency requirement. ICF wants to make sure that your coaching hours are recent. So 10 years ago, if you did a coach training program and you coached 8 people and you did 90 hours of coaching, and you did all of that 10 years ago, and then last month you coached someone for 10 more hours, that wouldn't count, because you would need at least 25 of your 100 to be within 24 months prior. So that's what that's about. Once you know when your training begins, then you can start to log your hours. And what that means is that if you are still in a coach training program, you can begin to log your hours. We'll talk more precisely about the requirements for that. But this for me was huge, because when I was still a student and I realized I could start to get my hours, I thought, oh, well, this is great, because I'm in a program with all these other coaches and we all need hours. We can start to coach each other, and that will be a way to get some momentum going towards my goal before I leave my program. And I know for me too, I was very anxious about finishing my coach training program and then having no community and no support. I do really well when I have some structure. And so I was thinking about, how can I create some structure to help me to accomplish this goal so I don't just feel lost and alone. I will add, it is very easy to feel lost and alone, not just in the world as a human, but also with coaching, because so much of it is very independent, very independently led. And so having community becomes really valuable. So these are the requirements. Let's look at this in a little more detail. What counts as paid hours? ICF says payment may be in any amount or barter of goods or services, including coaching in exchange for coaching. And actually, you know what? There's one thing I forgot to mention. I'm going to go back one slide. This demarcation, 70 paid hours, 30 pro bono, that is in part a response to the pandemic we've been living through for the last year. It used to be more paid hours and fewer pro bono, but ICF is acknowledging that there's such a need for coaching. And if you wish to give up to 30 hours of free coaching, you can. So just be aware that that requirement may change in the next year. This should be good through 2021, but after 2021, I'm not sure what ICF will do. But that's okay. You're going to get all the hours you need no matter what. So what counts as paid hours? This is very important. Payment may be in any amount. Any amount. Or a barter, an exchange, right, of goods or services, including coaching in exchange for coaching. This really opens up what's possible when you think about, how do I get my paid hours? You have a lot of options here. So for example, we have peer-to-peer coaching. This is what ICF is talking about when they say coaching in exchange for coaching. So you can coach your classmates if you're in a program, so long as that coaching is not happening as part of your class. So for example, if you are in class and your instructor says, for the next hour, we are going to exchange coaching, and you will partner with another classmate, you will coach each other for half an hour, that does not count as part of your paid hours because it was part of class. But if outside of class, you email a classmate and say, hey, what are you doing on Saturday morning? Would you like to meet and exchange some coaching? That counts as a coaching trade, as a paid hour. So long as it is not an assignment and it is not a part of your classroom time, that counts. There's also this great program that ICF runs called Reciprocoach. Let me show you what that looks like. Reciprocoach is when you are paired with two coaches. One is going to coach you. The other is going to be your client. So you're getting coaching in exchange for coaching, but it's not with the same person. And for me, when I was first starting, this was really valuable because it helped me to truly step into the role and the identity of, I am showing up as a coach for this person that I do not know, and I will use all of the skills that I have to be of service and to coach them. And it's so great because you also get to meet people who have very different coach backgrounds from you. So it's fun to trade with classmates because you all are in the experience together. It's really fun to trade with people you've never met before who come from different coach training programs. I found it also built up my belief in how valuable coaching was. By the end of my Reciprocoach round, I thought, I don't care where you were educated. I don't care what your background is. If you're a coach, you can help me. And coaching is so valuable. It also gave me the experience of being on the client side. And I think especially in the beginning, we don't do enough of that. We don't fully understand what it's like to be showing up as a client and receiving coaching support. So as you can see, it's also really cool because they have different rounds. So if you're a student or you're a new coach, you'll be in a pool of other coaches who are around your experience level. If you are speaking Portuguese, right? Like they also organize rounds for different languages because remember, ICF is the International Coaching Federation. So we have members all around the world, and not all coaches speak English or speak only English. We have coaches who are working and living and coaching in many other languages. So that is available to you as well. They have lots of different kinds of rounds here. They also have rounds based on location. So if you are based in Europe and you only want to be coached with people in your general time zone, you can sign up for a European round. If you are in North America and you only want to work with people in your time zone, you can do that too. And what's really lovely, let me click this one, is that the way it works is you will be assigned, right, two coaches, one who is your client, one who is your coach. You'll be required to set up 6 sessions for an hour each. They'll recommend how frequently you meet, but you're in charge of setting that time up for you based on what works for you. And the entire thing is only $55, which is such a great deal for getting 6 weeks of coaching. So this is available to you when you are an ICF member. And I know for me, this was incredibly valuable and I loved it when I first was getting started. And even now, as I'm getting close to my PCC hours, I'm looking forward to going back and doing more coaching trades. So that is one of the ways that you can get your hours: peer-to-peer coaching, trade with classmates, go to Reciprocoach, and do a couple of rounds of that. Also, we have internal coaching, which I mentioned earlier in the video series. Internal coaching is when you work within an organization, you coach people in your organization as part of your job, provided the client is not someone you directly supervise. So what I see is a lot of people who work in HR or in people ops, or maybe you're a manager and there's some kind of internal mentoring program or an internal coaching program. The way it shows up for me is I will teach group workshops and then I offer one-on-one coaching to the people in the workshops if they want help applying the concept to their own personal leadership and management work world. And so because they don't report to me, I get coaching credit for that. So if you are currently employed, you might find opportunities to do some internal coaching. Next, we've got third-party coaching. This is when an organization pays you to coach someone else. And some of the more well-known coach platforms that have come up in the last few years, BetterUp is one. We've got a couple of coaches in our Sacramento chapter who coach for BetterUp. And what I've heard is that they like it. They get a lot of hours. They don't have to do any selling. They just get paired with a client and then they get to coach them. Torch, Lyra does health coaching. Also, Modern Health is another coach platform. And we do have also, I know of at least one coach in Sacramento who is a coach on their platform. So that is another way to get hours. And I think part of what is nice about this is it really points to how much coaching is becoming a more widely known and widely available service. A lot of companies are looking to these platforms like BetterUp or Torch or Lyra to provide coaching to their employees. So there's an increasing demand and more ways for you to get paid as a coach. So that is available to you. Also, we have group coaching. So that is defined as a situation where the participants set the agenda, it is interactive, and the group is 15 people or fewer. So if you decided to do a group coaching for parents, let's say you're coaching parents around challenges of being a parent, right? And especially during the pandemic, so many challenges with kids at home and parents at home and so many challenges, so many parents needed coaching. So let's say that you're doing a coaching program, a group coaching program for parents, provided that it was, 15 people or fewer, that they were setting the agenda. So you weren't teaching them, you really were coaching them. It was very interactive. That would count as 1 hour of coaching. And with respect to these 3 categories of hours, you will want to review what the ICF requires for documentation for those categories. We'll talk about tracking in just a moment, like how to track your hours, but each one of these has some slightly different requirements. So you'll want to know what those are if this is something that you do. So let's talk about tracking your hours. This language was lifted right from the ICF website. The main thing I want you to know is that you're not required to submit a coaching log with personal information of your clients. From time to time, ICF will conduct audits just to verify that your coaching experience is truly as you are representing it to be. And they recommend that coaches obtain and document client consent to having their information stored, and that you have a policy on how you protect and maintain that information. Privacy and personal information is so important, and ICF is acknowledging that and reminding you to take care of that. They also note, though, that even if you are audited, you still won't need to submit client logs directly to the ICF. So really, when you're tracking hours, you want to do this for yourself, for your own records. And what I found too when I first got started was that it also helped me to build my momentum and my enthusiasm to feel like I was making some progress. But it also helped me to manage my caseload or client load, because the way I would track my hours would also keep me very current on how many sessions I was doing with a client, how many sessions they had remaining. It just gave me a very good picture of what that part of my work looked like. So let me show you what that part of my work looked like. This is how I coached, how I tracked my hours. There are different ways to do it. This is not required, but this is what worked for me. I created a document in Google Sheets, which is a free app. And I had the date, the time of the session, whether it was a pro bono hour or not, how long the session was. And then here, instead of, client 1, I would put their name. I would put their email, and then I would make a note, which session was this, of how many sessions. This really helped me to keep track of where we were, so I didn't ever feel surprised, like, oh, it's your last session. Like, it really gave me a good sense of where are we in our relationship. And then it would just record for me how many hours I had gathered up. And I put, of course, a few words of encouragement, because it can sometimes feel like there's a long way to go, but every hour counts. So this is what I did. I also organized my clients according to this. And this is different, but what this really helped me do was organize how, like, where were these clients coming from? And were they free? Were they trade? Like, what was the balance? So on the far left, here are all of the coaching trades that I did. So I would do a reciprocoach round, or I would trade with a classmate, and how many hours I would do that for. The middle section were my pro bono clients. One of the things that's nice is that when you are only able to give 30 free hours, it allows you to be very organized about that. So for me, when I was coming through my program and starting to get my hours, that's when the pandemic was still quite new. And a lot of people were losing their jobs or being furloughed, going through really big challenges. And it felt really good to be able to say into my community, I am offering free coaching. If you're going through something really challenging right now, I can offer, 6 weeks of coaching. We'll meet for 1 hour a week for 6 weeks, and I'm happy to do this for free. And then when I had 5 people, if someone said, hey, Kim, are you still doing free coaching? I could say, no, I don't have any more of those available, but I am offering something else. And so it just allowed a very easy way for me to organize how I did that, and also let me feel really generous. But it prevented me from over giving and just saying, I'll just coach you for free because everything is hard right now and I just want to help. So I want to offer that just as a perspective and the thinking behind why I did that. Also, when I first started, now remember, you can coach for any amount. And so when I first started, it was still so much pandemic. I had no idea what to charge. I just knew they had to be paid hours. So for the summer, I said, I am offering coaching on a sliding scale. You can choose what you want to pay for 8 hours of coaching. And people chose different kinds of things, and it was fine. And I loved it because I didn't really want to think about what my pricing was. I just wanted to get people who were willing to pay me so that I could meet that requirement. And you'll notice here, I even had a client, he actually started as a pro bono client for free. And maybe 2 or 3 sessions in, he said, Kim, I have this apricot tree. It has the sweetest apricots I have ever tasted. They are delicious, and I have so many, I don't even know what to do with them all. And I said, I would happily take some apricots. And he said, oh, I can give them to you in exchange for coaching. I thought, perfect. So that is what I did, is I accepted 2 big bags of the sweetest apricots I'd ever had before. And then I coached him, and then they counted as paid hours. So it can look a lot of different ways. I also want to show you exactly what that process looked like for my sliding scale, because this simplified things for me. I created a Google form and I wrote out what my offer was, right? 8 weeks of coaching on a sliding scale, very general life coaching, right? Nothing super specific, just I'm a coach. I can help you with your work and your life. And if you're interested in working with me, fill this form out and then we'll schedule a call. It's still important to have a chemistry call, a discovery call, a consult, whatever you call that, so you can have that conversation with the client and see, what is it that they want help with? Is this really a good fit? What happens next? How do you onboard them? So this was the form that I used in the beginning, and it's really simple, right? Email, name, what's going well, what's challenging, what's going on now that makes you interested in working with a coach. This was the best question because it really helped me to understand, why were they reaching out? What were they hoping to get from coaching? And then select your package price. I gave 3 options, and then I also let them choose their own price. I had someone who said, things are really hard right now. Is it okay if I pay you just like $200? Yes, of course. Let's have a call and let's talk about if we want to work together and how that would work. So this is what I did, because in the beginning, I just needed to make it easy and I needed to get my 100 hours. So now we've talked about what specifically does it mean to get those 100 hours and how do you track them? Let's take a stretch break. We'll come back in just a moment with our next video.